Okay guys, so the X50 is finally launched, and well, before this we already had two looks of the car. We went to the official rollout from Tanjung Malim, we went to the pre-launch media drive in Sepang, and today, well, because of coronavirus, because of CMCO, there was no physical launch event. Everything was broadcast online, and yeah, and today we know the official price of the X50. So as mentioned earlier, there are four variants, and pricing starts from 79,000 ringgit for the standard model, 85,000 ringgit for the executive model, 93,000 ringgit for the premium model, and 103,000 ringgit for the range-topping flagship model. So to recap, four variants of the X50. Interestingly enough, there are two engine choices. Both of them 1.5 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engines. Difference is one has port injection, one has direct injection. The port injection variant gets 150 PS. The direct injection variant gets 177 PS. The standard executive premium models get the port injection variant, whereas the flagship model gets the direct injection engine. So regardless of what variant you choose, standard transmission, 7-speed DCT, same as you get in the X70 CKD, and it's front wheel drive as standard. Okay, so features wise, the standard model starts off with 4 airbags, starts off with LED headlamps as standard, 17-inch alloy wheels, fabric seats, rear air con vents, 8-inch infotainment unit, and a reverse camera, which for me, I think it's a very good equipment count. But it's just that I don't understand why they can't make 6 airbags as standard. You move to the next variant, the executive model, 6 airbags, auto headlamps, front fog lamps, leather seats, leather steering wheel. Honestly, I think if I don't think this one gives much extra over the standard. I think if you just were to put the 6 airbags on the standard model, this variant to me, I think it's quite redundant. The premium model premium model upgrades to 18-inch wheels. You get 360-degree camera. That's a nice upgrade. You get tire pressure monitoring, and you get electric driver seat adjustment. So then you go to the flagship model. The flagship model, you get the more advanced engine. You get advanced driver assist features that includes auto braking, lane keep assist, lane trace assist, blind spot monitoring, auto high beam assist, and even adaptive and intelligent cruise control. It's in the ADAS package in the X50 here is actually in fact more advanced than what you get in the X70, because the X50, it sits on a newer platform, so therefore it's able to accommodate more advanced, more sophisticated technologies. Okay, yeah. So then also other features in the X50 flagship get panoramic sunroof, and cosmetically you can tell it apart from the rest because it gets a dual tone exterior. So the roof is black painted, whereas the rest of them, the roof is body color painted. Okay, so as expected, the X50 flagship model, there is a bit of a price overlap against the X70. It is in fact more expensive than the X70 standard. The pricing of 103,300 ringgit for the flagship model is actually closer to the executive X70. X70 executive is 106,800 ringgit. X70 standard, 94,800 ringgit. That's actually closer to that of the X50 premium, which is priced at 93,200 ringgit. So in terms of value buy, honestly, to me, the way I look at it, I think these lower spec X70s represent a better value buy versus the X50. Of course, if you buy the X50, you enjoy slightly more advanced technology package and also a sportier appearance, whereas the X70 has is a bit more of a matured product, and you know, because you're taking the standard and the executive variants, you get slightly lesser features. But of course, if you are a, you know, just for your regular commutes, X50 would be great. But if you regularly cover a lot of long distance travels, I would still recommend that you go for the bigger X70 instead, on the accounts of its bigger size. It's still a higher segment product, so you can expect it to be a bit more refined. And when you need to cover long distances, you can't argue against more displacement and more cylinders. All right. So, but you know, regardless lah, however you look at it, right, the X50, its price range, everything in the 80,000 to 105,000 ringgit price bracket will be severely affected. In fact, a lot of cars up to the 120,000 price bracket and, you know, down below the 70,000 ringgit price bracket will also be somehow affected by this car, because it is such a competitively spec'd car, very keenly priced, and, you know, at very advanced product, and it's so and the styling is so attractive. So it is a multifold winner that, you know, that you have to think very hard indeed to not want to buy this car. So the immediate rivals of the X50 would, at the top of my mind, would be the Honda HR-V, would be the Mitsubishi ASX, would be the Subaru XV. So how do you justify choosing any of these three versus the X50? Well, you can lah, actually. Subaru XV, well, you need to really appreciate the fundamentals of its all-wheel drive system, because Subaru builds the best all-wheel drive systems in the market. And if you are looking for something that, you know, you want to subject to really rough use, the XV actually does it better than its peers. Okay, no doubts about it. So you want to use it to tackle rough terrain, I would say take the XV. Of course, not full-scale off-roading, but you get what I mean, right? Broken roads, maybe construction site, that kind of thing. The XV will take the pounding much better than any of the alternatives. The ASX is a bit of an aged product, so especially in two-wheel drive form, there's no reason to choose it anymore. It does have the only advantage that it has over the X50 is that it has multi-link rear suspension, because it is based on a Lancer platform. But at the end of the day, it is an old product. You sit inside there, you're transported 10 years back in time. There is the option of four-wheel drive that adds something into the picture, but if you want four-wheel drive, Subaru does it better. The HR-V, well, there are still good reasons to choose the HR-V, because if you want something with compact dimensions and you want a spacious interior, nobody packages interiors the way Honda does it. The HR-V is a very spacious vehicle on the inside, big boot, bigger boot than even the X70. So if you regularly need to carry a lot of barang, the HR-V may still ultimately be a more practical choice. The only thing is that the cabin, the build of the HR-V really, it feels distinctly second best to the X50. All right, but then again, styling-wise, the HR-V, it's still a handsome-looking car. All right, the design has aged very, very well, and it didn't become a bad product overnight. Okay, let's put it that way. But it's just that the X50 is a superior product to it on many levels, on many aspects, that your requirements will need to be very specific, you know, to justify going for it. But there are good reasons to go for it. The segments that would the product segments that will be least threatened, that are least threatened by the X50 in this price bracket, would be the seven-seater MPVs, and I'm talking about the Pro Duo Alzas, the Honda BR-Vs, the Toyota Avanza, well, there's the Toyota Rush as well. But why would you want to buy the Rush if the Pro Duo Arus is basically the same car made in the same factory, sold for 20,000 ringgit less? So with these cars, the X50 will pinch a bit of sales from them. Okay, basically what the X50 will do to them is that it will probably eliminate from them a customer pool. So customer pool previously that was shopping in this price bracket with this 80,000 80,000 ringgit price bracket will now only look at these cars if and only if they definitely need the 7 seats. Because if you were to compare any of these cars against the X50 in terms of sophistication, in terms of build, in terms of performance, design, everything, the X50 is a far superior product than all of them. So I mean, the likes of the Alza, the BRV, the Avanza, the Arus, they have a very high utility factor, and they still make for good workhorses. They are still great choices if you are looking for a budget MPV with more than 5, that you need to carry more than 5 people. All right, but if you don't need that space, then the X50 is in every way a superior choice to these cars. The ones that will suffer the most, I would say, would be the likes of the Honda City, Honda Jazz, Toyota Vios, the Yaris, and the soon-to-be launched Nissan Almera. So we don't know the Almera's pricing yet. Now, the Jazz and the Yaris, the base models of these cars are in the 70,000 ringgit price bracket. So that it still has a good gap between the X50 from the X50. So if somebody that's shopping really ngam at that 70k budget, they can still look at the base spec Jazz or the base spec Yaris, and these will be their cars. But it is the higher variants, you know, like the Jazz V spec at 85,000 ringgit or the Yaris G spec at 83,000 ringgit. These will struggle a bit more to find takers. And the Jazz, don't forget, this car is nearing the end of its product life cycle. So, you know, it's become something of a stale product, but it still has a lot of things going for it. The Jazz, once again, going back, typical Honda, right? Fantastically packaged interior. Ultra seats are I would say the most amazing thing in rear seat design ever. Okay, so you can't argue against the practicality of those Honda Ultra seats. All right, so it's the Jazz it's an aging product, but it's still a good runabout car. The Yaris actually has a bit more. It's a bit more of a tougher sell now, because the Yaris. Now, previously the dynamics between the Jazz and the Yaris. The Yaris was, I would consider, a sportier alternate. The sportier alternative in this choice, right, between the Yaris and the Jazz. So the Jazz is the more practical, the more you know, spacious inside, whereas the Yaris interior packaging nowhere near as good as the Jazz, nowhere near as spacious, but the Yaris drives better than the Jazz. The Yaris handles better than the Jazz. But you know, when you're talking about capturing this dynamic crowd, right? When you have this sportiness as one of your selling points, the X50 now comes with a turbocharged engine that gives you better performance, more sophisticated looking styling. So the Yaris suddenly now becomes a bit of a tough car to sell. Now, the City and the Vios, once again, I would say, I think the Vios will suffer quite a bit. because the city, whereas the city has, you know, has still that the push of that new car push, that wow factor. So it will have a bit of early momentum to carry on, but we still do not know how is Honda going to price their range topping hybrid model. But as of now, the city range is it spans from 74,000 ringgit for the base model, going up to 87,000 ringgit for the highest 1.5V petrol model. The RS hybrid, it should be sitting a bit higher than that. Now that leaves us with the new Almera. The Almera, well, it's a promising product, very handsome looking car, drives well, way better than its predecessor, and I would say amongst sedans, the most handsome looking one in the segment, in the market segment right now. But at the last, but there's no pricing yet. Edaran Tanjong Motor said in their last communication, they say that it's about 80 something thousand, but we don't know, is 81 closer to 81,000 or closer to 89,000. So that one, that like the city, it will have a bit of an early momentum, but it will face quite a struggle against the X50. The sedans lah, you know, the city, the Vios, the Almera. Someone will have to be a very traditional minded buyer who insists, you know, I must have a sedan, that 3-box sedan, all right, to not want an X50 over one of those. So yeah, the city, Vios and Almera will face tough times ahead, all right, and yeah, the X50 will make life very difficult for them indeed. So the other one last player that I'm looking at here is the Pro Duo Myvi. Now the Myvi is priced at 52,000 ringgit, so you wouldn't immediately think that this is a same, you know, a same product segment as the X50, and it isn't. But let me tell you one thing: the Myvi, for the last, you know, since the original model was launched, right, and to a certain extent the city, these have been the kind of, these cars have that certain appeal whereby these are the budget cars that rich people also buy as their spare car, as their, you know, pasar malam car, as the car that they buy to go and fetch their kids in school, right? Whilst they are, you know, their Alphas, their Wellfires, their BMW 5 Series are reserved for a bit more official use or whatever, right? Some rich families, they have they would buy that budget econo box there for, you know, for rough use, all right, and for the longest time, you know, it is the cars like it is the Myvi, it is the Honda City, it is the Vios. These were the cars that transcended class, in the sense that you can be a first-time car buyer, all right, or, you know, you're just upgrading from your Proton Saga, you're looking to move slightly up market. These are the cars you go to. Or if you are, same thing, if you are, you know, you're quite well to do, you just want an extra car for all your city runarounds, you buy one of these cars that are cheap to buy, cheap to maintain. Every 3-4 years you change, every 3-4 years you change. So the thing is, when you're these set of rich buyers, right, supplementary car buyers, they have the money, and when they look at that same amount of money, can now buy something that is as cool and sophisticated as the X50, you would imagine that quite a few bit of sales will be pinched over. So the X50, this is a major disruptor in the market, and I dare say to a certain extent it may even disrupt the used car market as well, because once again, I mean, you no longer need to go and hunt in the used car market for a budget buy with advanced safety features. You don't no longer need to look for a 7-8-year-old Volvo S60. A brand new Proton X50 now does the job, will now drive itself, will now stop itself, will even flick high beams on your behalf. So it's a very difficult car to argue against, and this is even before we have the chance to test drive the car. And here's the thing, I don't think even if the X50 doesn't drive particularly well, it will still sell, because I think based on our brief impressions at Sepang, the car drives well enough already. It may not have the kind of handling finesse that Protons from the era of the Wajah and Gen 2 were renowned for, but it has all the right blend of abilities, design, features offered at the right price point, and it will absolutely sell. So yeah, Proton says they have, the Proton's latest figures say they have 20,000 bookings. I'm quite sure that number will double pretty soon. Okay, cheers guys.